Hello and welcome to Mona English Café. Today's story is a quiet one. It is not loud. It is not fast. There are no big surprises and no sudden endings. But it is the kind of story that reaches inside you slowly and stays there long after it is finished. And if you listen all the way to the very end, I will share with you 5 natural English phrases from today's story, phrases that real people use in real conversations, phrases that are simple to remember and beautiful to say. So please stay with me, make yourself comfortable. This story is for you. But before we begin, I want to ask you one small question. Have you ever looked at someone, a friend, a coworker, a family member, maybe even a stranger on the street and seen them smile, a wide and warm smile, and still felt that something was not right? Something behind the smile. Something small and heavy sitting quietly in their eyes. They said the right words, they stood the right way, but something you could not explain what was not matching. The smile was there, but the person was somewhere else entirely. Most of us have seen that. Some of us have been that person. This is a story about one of them. Her name is Sara, and Sara always smiled. Sara was 32 years old. She lived alone in a small apartment on the 4th floor of an old building in a quiet part of the city. The building was not new and it was not beautiful. The paint on the outside walls was old and cracking in a few places. The stairs were narrow. The elevator worked sometimes and broke down other times, and when it broke down, Sara walked up 4 floors without complaining. She was used to it. Her apartment was small, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that was just big enough for 1 person, and a small sitting area near the window. She did not have much furniture. A bed, a table with 2 chairs, a small bookshelf with a few books and a little green plant she watered every 2 days. She had chosen the plant carefully at the market. She picked it because the man at the stall told her it was very hard to kill. She liked that about it. The most important thing in her apartment was the window. It faced east, which meant that every morning the light came through it first. She had a white curtain on it, thin and soft, and every morning, before she did anything else, she opened that curtain and let the morning light come in. It was the first thing she did every single day, even when she was tired, even when she did not want to get up. She opened the curtain, she let the light in, and then she started her day. She worked at a small bakery called Green Leaf Bakery, about 7 minutes from her apartment on foot. She liked that it was close. She liked that she could walk. She woke up every morning at 5:30, washed her face with cold water, made 1 small cup of strong coffee, drank it standing at the kitchen counter, put on her coat and walked to work. She was always on time. She was never late, not once in 3 years. Her boss was a man named Mr. Hamid. He was a large man with a kind face and a white apron that was always covered in flour by 8 in the morning. He was strict about cleanliness and punctuality. He was not a man who gave compliments easily, but he always said, "Good morning, Sara," when she arrived, and she always answered, "Good morning," with a smile. That was their routine. That was how every day began. Sara was good at her job. She was fast and careful. She packed the bread without squashing it. She remembered which customers liked their bread sliced and which ones did not. She kept the counter clean without being asked. She knew how to talk to the customers, how to be warm without being too familiar, how to make someone feel welcome without wasting their time. The customers liked her. Some of them came in partly because of the bread and partly because of Sara. There was an old man named Mr. Karim who came every Tuesday and Thursday morning. He always ordered the same thing, 1 small brown loaf and 2 plain rolls. He always paid with exact change. He always said, "Thank you, my dear," in a soft voice. And Sara always said, "See you Thursday, Mr. Karim," or "See you Tuesday, Mr. Karim," depending on the day. One Thursday he did not come. Sara noticed. She did not say anything, but she noticed. On the following Tuesday he came back. He told her he had been sick. Sara said she was glad he was feeling better. That was all, but she had noticed. That was the kind of person she was. There was also a young mother who came in most mornings with a small child, a boy of about 3 years old with large, dark eyes and a red coat that was slightly too big for him. The boy always pressed his face against the glass display case and looked at the cakes with enormous seriousness, as if he were making a very important decision. Sara always crouched down to his level and pointed at each cake one by one and told him the name. This one is chocolate. This one is honey. This one has orange inside. The boy never bought any of them. His mother never let him have cake in the morning, but he always left looking satisfied, as if knowing the names of things was enough. To everyone who watched, Sara was content. She was warm. She was exactly where she should be. But Sara's co-worker, a young woman named Layla who had worked at the bakery for only 6 months, was beginning to see something different. Layla was 25. She was cheerful and talkative and always had something to say. She liked Sara. She thought Sara was the most competent and reliable person she had ever worked with. But sometimes, in the quiet moments between customers, in the still minutes when the oven was working and the shop was empty, Layla watched Sara and noticed something that did not match. Sara would be in the middle of a task, wrapping bread, cleaning a shelf, counting change, and she would suddenly stop. Just for a second, just for a moment, and she would look at nothing. Her hands would be still, her face would go quiet, and then a customer would walk in or a sound would come from the kitchen and Sara would come back and the smile would return, quick and automatic like a light switched on. Layla noticed this several times over several weeks. She did not say anything. She was not sure what she would say, but she kept noticing. One Wednesday afternoon, the bakery closed early. Mr. Hamid had a family appointment and he left at 3 o'clock, which was unusual. He asked Sara and Layla to clean up and lock the back door. They said yes. The bakery was quiet. The street outside was quieter than usual. It was a cold afternoon in late autumn and most people were walking quickly with their heads down, trying to get somewhere warm. Layla cleaned the display case. Sara swept the floor at the front of the shop. Then Sara went to the back to sweep there too. Layla finished her task and put on her coat. She was ready to leave, but she heard something. It was very small. It might have been nothing, but Layla stopped and listened. She walked slowly to the back of the shop. The back area was warm from the oven, even though the oven was turned off now. There was a small wooden chair near the wall that Mr. Hamid used on his break. Sara was sitting on it. The broom was leaning against the wall next to her. Her hands were in her lap, her head was slightly down, she was not crying, her face was not dramatic, she just looked empty, quietly, entirely empty. "Sara," Layla said softly. Sara looked up fast. The smile came back immediately, quick and practiced, the way it always did. "Oh, sorry, I was just resting for a moment. I am a little tired." Layla looked at her for a moment. She did not say, "Are you sure?" She did not say, "You don't look okay." She just walked to the back of the room, picked up an empty bread crate, turned it upside down, and sat on it next to Sara. She did not say anything at all. She just sat there. Sara looked at her. "You can go. I will finish cleaning." "I know," Layla said. "I am not in a hurry." They sat there in the warm, quiet back room of the bakery. The street sounds came in faintly through the wall. A car passed. A child called out something far away. The building made a small creaking sound, the way old buildings do when the temperature changes. After a long silence, Layla said very gently, not looking at Sara, looking at the wall in front of her, "You know, you don't have to smile all the time." Sara did not answer immediately. Layla did not look at her. She just let the words stay there in the warm air between them. She let them sit without pushing. Then Sara said quietly, "I know, but it is easier." "Easier for who?" Layla asked, still gentle, still not pushing. Sara thought about this. "For everyone," she said. "When I smile, people do not worry, they do not ask questions, they can just go about their day." She paused. "And sometimes I think that is better for them." "And for you?" Layla asked. Sara said nothing for a long moment, then she said, "I don't know. I have been doing it for so long that I don't always know the difference anymore." Layla turned to look at her then. And Sara looked back, and something passed between them, not words, just recognition. The kind that happens when one person sees another person, really sees them without asking them to be anything different. Sara took a slow, careful breath and she began to talk. She talked slowly at first, like someone finding their way through a dark room, touching the walls to make sure they are real. She talked about her life before the bakery. She had been a student, she was studying design. She loved it, she loved colors and shapes and the way a simple line could change the feeling of an entire space. She had been good at it, her teachers said so, her classmates said so, she had plans. She wanted to graduate, find a job in a design studio, save money, and one day, open a small cafe of her own. She had already decided on the name. She called it the Yellow Door. She loved the color yellow. She said it was the color of something beginning, the color of a door that is about to open. Layla listened without interrupting. Then Sarah's voice changed just slightly. It became quieter. She talked about her father. He became ill in Sarah's second year of university. It was not a fast illness. It was slow and steady, the kind that takes a little more each month. He needed care. He needed medicine. He needed someone at home. Sarah's mother was not well either. She had her own health problems and could not manage alone. Sarah had two younger sisters, but they were still in school. There was no one else. So Sarah came home. She left her studies. She did not finish the semester. She packed her things from the student dormitory into 2 bags and came home on a Friday evening. She remembered that evening clearly. It was raining. She sat in the bus with her 2 bags and she looked out the window at the wet streets going by and she told herself, this is temporary. This is just for now. I will go back. I will finish. I will find a way. That was 7 years ago. 7 years, Sarah said. She said it slowly as if she were reading it from somewhere. And somewhere in those 7 years, I stopped saying this is temporary. I stopped making plans. I stopped thinking about the yellow door, not because I decided to stop. I just forgot to keep going. She paused. Or maybe I was too tired to keep going. I am not sure which one is true. Layla did not say, I understand. She did not say, everything happens for a reason. She did not say, at least your father is still here, or at least you have a job, or any of the other things people sometimes say when they do not know what else to say. She just listened. She kept her eyes on Sarah and she listened. Sarah continued. She talked about the mornings, how the 5:30 alarm was the hardest part of every day, not because she was tired, but because for a few seconds before she was fully awake, she forgot where she was. She forgot what year it was. She was back in her student room and her design books were on the desk and the semester was just beginning. And then she opened her eyes and she saw the white curtain and the old ceiling of her small apartment and she remembered. And she got up anyway, because getting up was what she knew how to do. She talked about her father, how he was a little better now. Some months, how he could walk to the kitchen and make his own tea on the good days. How he sometimes laughed at something on the television, a real laugh, the kind she remembered from her childhood, and how on those days something in her chest felt lighter, not fixed, not repaired, just lighter for a while. She talked about the design books she still kept on the small shelf in her apartment. She had not opened them in years, but she had not given them away either. She was not sure why. Maybe because throwing them away would mean something she was not ready for. Or maybe because keeping them meant something too, something she was still holding onto, even if she could not name it. When she finished talking, the room was very quiet. Sarah looked at her hands in her lap. She looked tired, but a different kind of tired than before. Not empty. More like someone who had been carrying something heavy and had finally put it down on the floor. Even if just for a minute. Layla was quiet for a moment. Then she said, slowly and carefully, maybe the first step is not to find a new dream. Maybe the first step is just to stop telling people you are fine when you are not. Sarah looked at her. She held those words in her mind. She turned them over the way you turn a stone over in your hand to see the other side. Then, slowly and differently than before, she smiled. It was not the fast, automatic smile from the shop floor. It was smaller. It was a little uneven at the edges. It was the smile of someone who has just said something true out loud for the first time in a long time and is surprised to find that the world did not end when they said it. I think, Sarah said quietly, this is the most honest conversation I have had in a very long time. Layla smiled too, a real one. Good, she said. that is a start. They sat for a few more minutes in the warm back room. They did not fix anything. They did not solve anything. There was no plan made and no advice given, but something happened in that room that was more valuable than advice. Sara was seen, fully, quietly, without performance, and that was a thing she had not felt in a very long time. They cleaned up the rest of the bakery together. They turned off the lights. They locked the back door. Outside, the afternoon had turned to early evening. The air was sharp and cold. Their breath made small white clouds. "Tea," Layla said at the corner of the street. Sara thought for a moment. In the past, she would have said, "Oh no, it's okay, you go, I'm fine." But tonight she did not say that. Instead, she said, "Yes, I think I would like that very much." They walked 2 streets to a small tea shop with steamed-up windows and wooden chairs. They ordered 2 teas and sat near the window and watched people pass outside on the street, hurrying, carrying bags, talking on phones, walking dogs, holding umbrellas. The world is going about its evening. And inside, 2 women sitting with their warm cups, talking about small things. The funny customer who came in every week and always asked the price of the bread even though the price had not changed in 2 years. The cat that lived near the bakery always chose the same step. A television show Layla was watching. A book Sara had started and put down and picked up again. They did not talk about big things. They did not need to. Big things had already been said. Now it was time for small things, and small things Sara was remembering could be very good too. The next morning, Sara woke up at 5:30. The alarm sounded and she lay still for one moment. She looked at the ceiling. She breathed, and then she got up. She washed her face. She made her coffee. She walked to the window and she opened the white curtain. The light came in, pale and early, just beginning. She stood there for a moment longer than usual, just breathing, just looking at the light on the wall across from her, the way it moved slightly as the curtain shifted in the small air from the window. It was not beautiful in a dramatic way. It was just light on a wall. But she looked at it and she let herself look without hurrying on to the next thing. At work, Mr. Hamid said his usual "Good morning, Sara." Sara said, "Good morning," and then she paused. She had decided something that morning, standing at her window. She had decided to try something different, just something small, so she added, "I am a little tired today, but I am here and I am ready." Mr. Hamid looked at her. He was a man of habit. This was not part of their habit. He looked surprised for just a moment. Then something shifted in his face, something that might have been respect or recognition or simply the look of a person who has just been told the truth and appreciated it. He nodded. "That is enough," he said. "Thank you for coming." It was such a small exchange, 12 words from her, 6 words from him, but Sara walked to the counter feeling something she had not felt in the routine of her mornings for a very long time. She felt like herself, not a performance of herself. Just herself, tired, present, and there. The day went on the way days do. Mr. Karim came in for his usual brown loaf and rolls. The young mother came in with the little boy in the red coat. He stared at the cakes again with his serious dark eyes. Sara crouched down and named each one for him. Chocolate, honey, orange inside. He looked at each one and then looked at Sara with grave satisfaction and said in a very serious small voice, "Orange." Sara laughed, a real laugh, short and quiet but real. She had not laughed at work in longer than she could remember. She still smiled at the customers. She was still warm and attentive and careful, but she was not performing it now. She was not manufacturing it from the outside and hoping it would reach the inside. When she felt it, she let it come. When she did not feel it, she was simply kind and professional and present, which she was beginning to see was just as good. Maybe better. Weeks passed. The weather became colder. The city put up its winter decorations, strings of small lights along the main streets, a large tree in the square near the bakery, the smell of roasted nuts from a cart near the bus stop. Sara noticed all of it more than she had before, or perhaps she had always noticed these things, but now she let herself stay with them a little longer. She did not rush past them in her mind. She did not look at the lights and immediately think about something else. She looked at them and she let them be what they were, small and bright and good, for just a moment in the cold evening air. She started carrying a small notebook. She had found it in the bottom of a drawer unused with a dark blue cover. She began to write in it at night before she slept. She did not write goals or plans. She was not ready for that yet, and she did not force it. She wrote what she had seen that day, what she had felt, small observations, small truths. One evening she wrote, "A woman on the bus was reading a book and she was so completely inside it that she almost missed her stop. I watched her realize it at the last second and jump up and squeeze through the doors just in time, and she was laughing as the doors closed. I think that is what it looks like to be fully somewhere. I want to practice that." Another evening she wrote, "I was tired today in a deep way, not from work, from something older. But I told Layla and she said, I know, and somehow that was enough. I think the right person saying I know is one of the best things there is." One evening she opened a new page and she wrote in careful small letters, "The Yellow Door Café, I still love that name. I do not know if it will ever happen. But it belongs to me. No one took it. I just put it down for a while. It is still there." She put the pen down. She looked at those words for a long time. Then she closed the notebook and turned off her lamp and lay in the dark and listened to the sounds of the building, a door somewhere, a television through the wall, the elevator arriving and opening and closing, the ordinary sounds of people living their lives nearby. She had heard them every night for 3 years and never really listened. Tonight she listened, and it felt like company. One Saturday morning, a cold, white-skied Saturday in December, Sara had a day off. She slept until 7. She woke slowly without an alarm, which felt like a small luxury. She made coffee. She opened the curtain. The sky outside was the color of pale gray cloth, not dramatic, just still and quiet and winter white. She stood at the window with her cup and looked down at the street. A man was walking a large brown dog that kept stopping to smell every tree and post and corner. The man was patient. He never pulled the lead. He just waited each time, looking around at the morning, comfortable with the pausing. An elderly woman was coming out of the building across the street with a shopping bag. She moved slowly but steadily, one careful step at a time. 2 teenagers walked by fast, one of them saying something that made the other one laugh so suddenly that she had to stop walking. Their laughter came up to Sara's window, light and sharp in the cold air. Sara watched all of this with her coffee cooling slowly in her hands. She was not thinking about anything in particular. She was just watching. She was just there, and it was enough, more than enough. It was, she thought, actually quite a lot. She thought about the girl she had been 7 years ago, sitting on a bus in the rain with 2 bags, telling herself this was temporary. She did not feel anger at that girl. She did not feel pity either. She felt something closer to tenderness. That girl had done what she needed to do. She had put things down because she had to, and now, slowly, she was learning to pick some of them back up, not all at once, not dramatically. Just one at a time, in the quiet way that real things happen. She went to her bookshelf. She looked at the design books she had not opened in years. She put her hand on the spine of one, a thick one with a soft cover, her name written in pencil on the inside page, the way she used to write it in all her books at university. She did not open it. She was not ready for that yet, but she put her hand on it and she let it be there, and she let herself be there too in the same moment without needing anything to happen. Later that day she went for a walk. She had no destination. She walked through streets she knew and some she did not know. She stopped at a market and bought some vegetables and a small jar of orange jam because the color of it in the glass was so warm and good that she could not walk past it. She sat in a small park for a while on a cold bench and watched pigeons walk around looking serious and important. She bought a paper cup of hot tea from a cart near the park gates and drank it while she walked home. By the time she got back to her apartment, it was early afternoon. The sky had stayed its quiet winter gray all day. She hung up her coat, put the vegetables in the kitchen, set the jar of orange jam on the table where she could see it. She sat down at her table. She opened her notebook. She picked up her pen. She thought for a moment. And then she wrote, "I used to smile so that no one would worry. Now I am learning to feel so that I do not forget myself." I do not know what comes next, but I know that I am here. And I know that this moment, quiet and ordinary and mine, is not nothing. It is everything I have, and today that is enough. She put the pen down. She looked at the jar of orange jam on the table. The winter light from the window came across it and made it glow just slightly, like something warm from the inside. She sat there in that quiet light, and she breathed, and she was present, and she was honest, and she was. In the most real and simple and human way, okay. Not fixed, not finished. Not where she thought she would be at 32, but present and honest, and slowly more herself than she had been in years. That is Sara's story. Not all of it. Stories like hers do not end on a Saturday afternoon. They keep going through more mornings and more cold walks and more notebooks filled and more cups of tea with the right person at the right time. But this part of her story, the part where she began to let herself be seen and began to see herself, that part is worth knowing, worth telling, worth hearing, because maybe you have been Sara, maybe you are Sara right now. Maybe your smile is working very hard today to carry something heavier than a smile should have to carry. And if that is true, I want you to know one thing: you are allowed to put it down, not permanently, not forever, just for a moment, just long enough to breathe. Now, before we finish, I promised you 5 natural English phrases from today's story. These are simple, honest phrases that real people use in real situations. Please listen carefully, write them down, and try to use them in your own life. The first phrase is, I am a little tired today, but I am here. This is a kind and honest way to answer when someone asks how you are. It does not complain too much, and it does not pretend too much. It is real. You can use it at work, with a friend, or with anyone who asks how you are doing. The second phrase is, you don't have to smile all the time. This is something you can say to a friend or family member who seems to be hiding their feelings. It is gentle and kind. It gives the other person permission to be honest with you. It says, you are safe here. The third phrase is, I am not in a hurry. Layla said this when Sara tried to send her away. It is a beautiful phrase. It tells someone that you have time for them, that they are not a burden, that you are choosing to stay. Use it when someone matters to you and they need to know it. The fourth phrase is, this is the most honest conversation I have had in a long time. You can use this when a conversation goes deeper than usual, when someone truly listens, or when you truly speak. It is a way of saying, what just happened between us was real, and I am grateful for it. The fifth phrase is, I put it down for a while, it is still there. This is not just an English phrase, it is a way of thinking about the dreams and plans and parts of yourself that life has made you put aside for a time. They are not gone, they are not lost, they are waiting, and that is something worth remembering. Write those phrases down, say them out loud, slowly and clearly. Let your mouth get comfortable with them, and use them when the moment is right. Real English lives in moments exactly like the ones in Sara's story. Not in textbooks, not in grammar drills, but in the warm, honest, imperfect conversations of everyday life. Thank you so much for spending this time with me here at Mona English Café. If Sara's story touched something in you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it today. And I will see you in the next story, where we listen together, we feel together, and we learn English together. One quiet and honest moment at a time.